Hi everyone, I'm Lauren and I'm just going to give you a run through of this presentation, basically sort of bringing together parts of Turning the Plastic Tide and other elements really that I'm also involved in. So yeah, we're going to take a closer look at coastal pollution and marine life, and basically have a closer look at how the flapper skate links in the land and the sea. So I'll give you a little bit of an introduction and an overview to Turning the Plastic Tide project, and then we're going to focus on one of our particular litter sink areas, which is based up in Fraserburgh at Cairnbulg. We're going to have a look at the egg cases of the flapper skate, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that animal and how kind of we're sort of moving forward with different bits of research in that area as well. So yeah, I mean, you probably already all know this by now, but East Grampian Coastal Partnership, not-for-profit, that was founded in 2005. And of course, we encourage the sustainable and responsible use of the coastline. We cover from Fraserburgh down to St Cyrus, Arbroathway, and the Turning the Plastic Tide part of the project is a sort of flagship beach clean initiative and education programme that began in about 2018. It was, yeah, late 2018. So what we do is we focus primarily on taking part and undertaking beach cleans with school groups, community groups and businesses, different corporations. We also deliver marine education workshops, which is Rosa's speciality. She goes and gives different talks to schools and community groups, businesses, etc. And we also do things like we train up volunteers to organise their own beach cleans and be able to do that safely with the equipment and everything. And we've supplied a network of beach clean boxes, which are known as the Take 4 for the Shore initiative that was originally started with Nature Scott. We've got 21 of those boxes up and down the coast, with bits of equipment in that people can go and do and carry out their own cleans. We also do things like attend harbour days and events and that sort of thing, and just basically promote sustainable use of the coastline and how to kind of look after your area, how to do beach cleans, etc, as well as working with regulatory bodies when we can, such as SEPA and Scottish Water, to further educate the public really about what can and can't go down the sewage systems and how that impacts ultimately along our coastline as well. We also do bits and pieces of research when we can, and have a closer look at how marine litter impacts the environment as well. Some little quick look at some statistics. So this was actually put together for earlier in the year, would have been sort of early March time this year. But as you can see, so we've got the number of volunteers that we've worked with purely on the beach cleans, that's in green. In orange are the number of cleans that we've organised, and in blue it's the tonnage that we've removed. So what were we sat at then? Just over 140 tonnes in March. Well, I can already tell you that we've hit 150 tonnes already now. So these numbers are continuously growing. We're still removing lots. It's really increased over time. There's a wee plateau there, kind of as we were sort of going into the COVID eras, but then it ramps up again. And working with over 9,000 volunteers purely on the cleans, that doesn't include all those that have taken part in the education programs. So yeah, we've got a decent little reach that is strongly growing, hopefully. So as I mentioned earlier then, we've got a few little hotspots that are, marine litter sinks sites really. And Cairnbulg in Fraserburgh is certainly one of those. So just to kind of, if you look at the top right little map there, you've got Cairnbulg, Boathaven marked on there. So that is the site. You can also see the main really long stretch of Fraserburgh Beach. So this is actually off onto the east side. And it's a tiny little harboury beach area that collects all sorts of rubbish. I've actually sort of put a few posts about these cleans on things like LinkedIn and that sort of thing in the past, and I've actually had researchers come to me and said, oh, you know, we were really intrigued how you were finding all this litter in this area, and we've run a few statistical models if you're interested. And basically they've, you know, looked at this area for me, and it's a, you know, yes, things like proximity to harbours, that sort of thing is important in terms of the litter, the type of litter that's being found. But as to why exactly it's coming in this spot, you know, it's due to prevailing currents, it's due to the prevailing wind directions, the bathymetry, lots of different factors basically play in to make this Cairnbulg area just a perfect storm, basically, where all the litter comes in. So in that, you know, in those photos there, you can see the scale of the litter. You've got extremely large items, you've got hard plastics, you've got lots of small bits of rope, smashed up little bits of shreds of things, lots of cloth often in this area as well. And when you look down, you can just see that it is everywhere there. So this is a particularly bad site. We do target it. We do large scale cleanups every year at Cairnbulg, which is challenging sometimes to be able to get rid of the rubbish and make sure it all goes to the correct places for it to be disposed of. So, you know, certain things can't be disposed if they're too large, they can't go to certain areas and all the rest of it. So it does take a little bit of planning to basically get this dealt with correctly, to be honest. But what you can see is that it is quite satisfying when we do a cleanup. So you can see the before there. We are plagued with a lot of tyres. I think the last one we did, we had about 76 tyres. Just in that small stretch of beach, and they pile up and pile up. But yeah, I mean, you know, you can see the difference there with the before and the after photos, and it's just, you know, it does make a huge difference if you can get the numbers of volunteers up there. We often do this with businesses now, and to be honest, different people tend to actually join from different businesses and collaborate on this area. Which is great, and it's what you need. You just need the people on the ground to be able to remove this level of litter, and as well as actually machinery. We often have always have the telehandler from Fraserburgh Harbour that comes along, and you know, on some of those heavy items there's only so much you can manually shift yourself, so it is great to have their support. And it does make a difference. Sadly, it does all come in again at different points in the year, but at that exact point in time, at least you've removed that, you've stopped it going in and out with any water action, with any swell. Here as well, but you've seen the amount of like ropes and nets that come in. They are entanglement issues. So if we can remove those from that environment and prevent anything like that happening, you know, it is all for the better. However, it is not all litter. It's not all doom and gloom litter. When you look closely at some of these areas in Cairnbulg, you will see very interesting egg cases. So you have to look extremely carefully. I've got my eye in now to be able to see these. And the reason that I'm quite familiar with these is that my background, I am a marine biologist who specialised in shark research. I still do work on sharks and skate species, and yeah, so I'm quite familiar with looking for the kind of egg cases that you might be able to find here. So if you look at the photo on the left, I am pointing at a small section of egg case sticking up there. As you can see, that is difficult to spot. Top middle as well, you can see one just right in the centre there, that kind of goldeny look there. One pulled out of the sand and one in the in amongst the leaves there on the high shore as well. So these are single egg cases. I'll tell you a little bit more about who they belong to in a bit. But essentially, when these are laid, and then they take about 18 months to hatch out, and then once they're emptier, they tend to be more susceptible, that little bit more negatively buoyant. They'll be in the water column, and you know, with the storm action, etc., currents, etc., will come on shore alongside all of the rubbish here as well. So the reason these are quite special is because they are laid by the flapper skate. So the flapper skate is still critically endangered. However, there is encouraging evidence that shows that population numbers are starting to increase in certain areas. So it is still very, very depleted compared to its original range. But like I say, there are encouraging signs as to the fact that they are starting to come back. They were banned from commercial fishers in 2009. So, you know, that has made a huge impact. They are the world's largest skate species. So, I don't know, you're probably thinking, well, what is a skate? What makes a skate a skate? So in very basic terms, a skate is essentially a flattened out shark species. They have cartilaginous skeletons, exactly the same as sharks. They're very closely related to them and the rays. Therefore, the difference between skates and rays. So this can be difficult because we have things like, you might have heard things like the thornback ray. That's actually not quite correct, that common name there. So it really should be called the thornback skate. In fact, we have occasional stingray visitors in our waters around the UK, but largely we actually all have skate species and not ray species. So the skate tend to be more of a diamond angular pattern than rays. And they have two small dorsal fins that push all the way down towards the base of the tail, whereas in the rays, these have either completely diminished or turned into small barbs, which is where the stingrays have their sting in, like venomous barbs. And most importantly, all skate lay egg cases, whereas all ray species are live birth. So it's a different method of reproduction, basically. And this is the egg cases that we find. So we find them in cat sharks, dogfish, otherwise known as well, wash up on our shoreline, otherwise known sometimes as mermaids' purses. The flapper skate egg case, you know, when they're first laid, probably about the size roughly of like an A4 sheet of paper. Yeah, mermaid's purse, mermaid's suitcase, you know, that kind of thing. It's pretty large. So yeah, they're actually really an incredible species there. As you can see in a couple of these photos, there's one on the top right there, courtesy of the National Museum Scotland, showing how prevalent they used to be. They used to be hand-hauled up onto the docks in Stonehaven in the early 1900s. And also the bottom left photo there from the Unnatural History of the Sea. You know, that was Aberdeen Fish Market, and that is skate just laid out upon layer and layer and layer of skates being caught in 1910 in the fish markets there. So it just goes to show how prevalent they were. My first encounter with a flapper skate was unfortunately that photo in the centre there. That was in Ullapool in Christmas, 2 days before Christmas, I think, in 2018. When this flapper skate had washed in dead. I ended up doing a necropsy on the beach there and then, fairly ill-equipped with essentially a penknife to obtain samples of the organs and of the vertebrae as well, and they got sent off to various universities and colleagues that I knew, so we could basically start to understand more about what was happening. And that's still going on to this day. So yeah, I'm still sending off samples here, there and everywhere for skate, and we're trying to sort of progress that side of things. Fortunately, I did manage to see these live underwater. So on the photo on the right hand side on the bottom there, that was actually at Macduff of all places. We've actually recently, I'm saying we, myself and my colleague Chris Rickard set up Shark and Skate Scotland, specifically off the back actually of trying to do more for the flapper skate. And we've just completed a study over on the west coast that's been published, basically looking at breeding area habitat of the flapper skate. We've been surveying it underwater for like 2.5 years. So that was a nice study, but ironically, you know, I was diving this one spot repeatedly for 2.5 years where we knew the adults came in, and I didn't see a single adult. I went and did a dive off Macduff a couple of years ago now, that was, and you know, I've dived that site hundreds of times probably, and on this dive you know, we came across this enormous female flapper skate, which was absolutely incredible. Really, really something. And I think I've got more about that on the next slide. There we go. Yeah, so yeah, that was the flapper skate at Macduff on the bottom left. Yeah, she was lovely, hung around for a little while and then scooted off, and we just left her to it. Really, really graceful underwater. The top egg case is how they look when they're not dried out and washed in on the shore. Really large and golden, really like sort of like Goldilocks colour almost. And they do actually have sort of like hair when they're first laid. They've got sort of like a film of hair. Really does look like Goldilocks hair. But anyway, yeah, so that's what they look like when they're first laid. The bottom right there is, oh yeah, that was actually the spot out on Skye Red Rocks marine protected area now as it is. We first did some initial dives there to basically locate an egg laying habitat there. It's since been documented as the largest flapper skate egg case laying area in the world. So it was really neat to be a part of that and to sort of dive that for the first times. If you look where my light is in the camera, just down from that, very cleverly disguised as another boulder, is in fact another flapper skate egg case. So yeah, they're in their hundreds there, if not thousands, those egg cases. So it was really neat to be able to get that, and you'll be able to see her there just really, really gracefully cruising over the seabed, nice and relaxed over the bouldery habitat there. So they do eat, they eat fish, different crustaceans, crabs, lobster, nephrops. I mean, some of the ones I've necropsied, I've actually seen lumpsucker fish in there as well. Okay, so just a bit sort of moving forward then. So obviously there's a few different crossover projects here. So obviously I'm finding them as part of the Turning the Plastic Tide beach clean work. I have co-founded Shark and Skate Scotland. And, you know, we feed our data into the Shark Trust data as well. So it's great to kind of get all those reports in and just make sure everyone's kind of got data of where these incredible animals are really. There's lots of work looking at the essential fish habitat, so egg laying grounds. We're convinced that there is an egg laying ground within the Murray Firth. There are too many egg cases, empty egg cases. Sometimes actually we've had a few with little embryos in as well actually. Spey Bay area usually. When they come in, you know, I'm convinced that there's no way they've come from all the way, you know, up in Shetland and Orkney, where they get lots of encounters. That I really do think that there is something more localised. To sort of have a look at that, we've put down BRUVs, baited remote underwater videos, and we have run underwater survey drones as well, gone out on boats and kind of evaluated the habitat. Using those methods, and there's definitely suitable habitat there. The problem is that, you know, you get, you know, sort of 45 minutes, 40 minutes, if that, deployment of the underwater ROVs, and, you know, your chance of finding something is remote, it's difficult. So we're hoping to kind of continue more mapping and to work with other people, and see what basically more work we can do there. It'd be quite interesting to do an environmental DNA study to find out if adults or flapper skate have been in the area. However, things like that, it depends how much is already on record. So as in, can the species be reliably detected? That's still a bit questionable. So, you know, lots of these kind of different studies are all being worked upon still. SAMS, Scottish Association of Marine Science, over near Oban, that's got a pretty cool study about to start where they're going to be analysing egg cases. You might have seen Nature Scott have done a shout out for this, asking for any flapper skate egg cases to be sent to them for this PhD project. We've sent in quite a few, dotted from all around the coastline. And basically with that, they're going to analyse the egg cases for things like microplastics, different contaminants, to see sort of what picking up there and if that sort of indicates anything about the locations around the coast in which they're found. So that's really nice. It's essentially nice, big collaborative project going forward with all of this. So yeah, if you want to get in touch, obviously Turning the Plastic Tide, East Grampian Coastal Partnership stuff, then please do reach out via my email for that. Shark and Skate Scotland as well, if you're interested in more in that, you can find us on our socials. You can get in touch if you want to report sightings, that sort of thing. And it's not just flapper skate, it's all elasmobrang, short skate ray species seen in the water, out the water, alive, dead, egg cases. We're interested in it all, really. And just sort of my kind of background on this is I've got my own organisation, Saltwater Life, and with that I actually kind of mostly specialise in getting people reconnected with the water now these days around the Scottish coastline via snorkelling and free diving. So yeah, getting folk in and amongst nature, having a look what's below the surface, and really sort of trying to reconnect folk and appreciate. And it all just sort of feeds in, really, because I think if you've got that connection, you're more likely to want to conserve what, you know, the coastline and the species around you. So it all sort of plays its part in a way. But yeah, so thank you for listening to me. I'm sorry I couldn't be here for this. I'm working with Peterhead Academy today, up in obviously in Peterhead, and we've got a nice lovely little project that's starting with them. So yeah, that's where I am today. But any questions, either give Ian a shout, or yeah, feel free to reach out directly to myself as well. Okay, thank you.